There is a serious problem going on right now, and I think it's only getting worse. Unfortunately, the G80 M3 is been going through some things. If you guys haven't been following just the internet in general, a whole bunch of people are crashing these cars, and some people are even going as far to say that the G80 M3 is the new Mustang, the new crowd killer. And I have some hypothesis. Anyways, I have some guesses why I think that's happening. Now, let me just say, by no means do I think I'm perfect, I'm the best driver, or the most experienced driver. But what I will say is, having a YouTube channel, a lot of people message me and talk to me about their cars. So thank you to all you guys. I appreciate you trusting me with some advice and all that. But I noticed there's a trend. These cars, rightfully so, have a lot of hype on the internet. They're amazing cars. They look amazing. They have insane performance. I mean, this thing's stock is like 500 to the crank, but I can almost guarantee you it's nearly that on wheel horsepower, because that's just a BMW thing. And that's just stock. If you were to tune these cars, a downpipe and a tune, you can push some insane power. So these cars are very popular online. And unfortunately, that means a lot of people want them. A lot of car people and a lot of non-car people. Now, a car person is pretty subjective. I mean, there's some people who like to just drive their cars. They never work on their own cars. There's some people who like to only work on cars and rebuild them. There's some people who just like to create show cars and just go chill at car shows. There's so many different variations of car people. So using the word car people probably isn't accurate, but what I will say is more experienced car people. I will have people message me and tell me that they're straight out of high school or college and they're trying to get a car like this. Honestly, guys, look, this is just my opinion, and maybe this is when my dad version comes out, but I think that's a very bad idea. On multiple levels. One, financially. These things are expensive. They're expensive to maintain. They're expensive to insure. It's a bad idea unless you're really financially set. The other thing is, and this gets back to our reason of why I think everyone is crashing these cars, is this is a lot of car to handle. Like I said, these things are very fast. Some of them are even rear-wheel drive, and then the others are all-wheel drive, but that can also be misleading, and we'll get into that later. So that's a very long way of me saying a lot of people jump into these cars when they're not ready for them. Now, I'm not saying that I'm ready for these cars or I'm the most experienced driver and all that, but what I am saying is, personally, guys, I bought this car when I was nearly 30 years old. And I don't only have this car, I have a Supra. And then to even go back, I started off with a base model Civic, a very slow car. I got a BMW 435. I eventually went stage 1, then I eventually went stage 2, had a tuned BMW 330i, I had a tuned BMW X3 M40i. I had a whole bunch of cars before my G80 M3. So I, in a way, kind of built up to this car. Whereas again, I feel like a lot of people just jump into these cars without building their way into it. So they're just not used to handling this much power. But if you work your way up, it's almost like training wheels in a way. If you can handle like a 180 horsepower car, then you can handle a 250 and then 350 and then 400 and then 500 like the G80 M3. So my point is, people keep on jumping into these cars and they don't know how to handle them. There's a lot of hype around them on the internet and people just really want to get these cars, and I get it, they're amazing. I think everyone should, but when everyone is ready for it. So now let's get into my next point, and I kind of touched on it already. Like I said, guys, these cars come in rear-wheel drive, which that inherently is tougher to handle. And I didn't realize just how much so, because I've personally never owned a rear-wheel drive car. My Civic was front-wheel drive, all my BMWs were all-wheel drive, and the only rear-wheel drive car that I ever owned is actually my Supra. So it really hit me just how much more you need to like really kind of take care of that car and the way you drive. So a lot of people jump into these cars, they're rear-wheel drive, but not only that. So in my case, my car is all-wheel drive, but unfortunately that gives a lot of people some false confidence. Now, you can change these cars to two-wheel drive if you didn't know already. So I actually have my M2 mode set to two-wheel drive and actually set it to level 7 traction control. However, if you don't have a specific package on these cars, I think it's like M-Drive Professional, where you can actually adjust the levels of traction control on a two-wheel drive setup. I know that's confusing, but let me show you what I mean. So if we go into setup, you'll see here that dynamic stability control is actually off. You need to have it off if you want to go into two-wheel drive. So let me just show you. If we put to fully on, you'll see here we actually can't even control it. So you can either have it on MDM, which is like a limited traction, which by the way you still can't have two-wheel drive. The only way you can do it, again, is if you put it completely off. Now, if you have it completely off and you go into two-wheel drive, typically, that's all you can do. So when people get the xDrive version of these cars, if they don't have that package, which I'll show you a little more detail in a bit here, you can only have two-wheel drive with no traction control, which, I mean, that's like asking for trouble. But because I have the mDrive Professional, I can actually change between 10 levels of traction control. So even though it's showing that it's off over here, I really do have traction, and I actually leave it at like level 7, just because to me, that's like a safe but a little more fun way to drive in two-wheel drive. Obviously, I can have it completely off, which, trust me guys, if you drive two-wheel drive, if you haven't before, with no traction, you gotta know what you're doing, because the car will slip on you. And I don't care how wide of a tire or how sticky of a tire you have, it will happen with two-wheel drive, no traction, and this much power, even on a stock car. Now, I know a lot of you guys are saying, well, I do that all the time and I'm fine. You probably know what you're doing. But remember, a lot of people who buy these cars, they're kind of new to cars like this, so they don't really know what they're doing. So they'll do that, and then they'll just lose the car. I mean, look at people even just driving on the highway and losing control of the car. And before I go and do something stupid, let's set it back to 7. Or you know what, even for the sake of filming this video, let's be extra careful and not be an example of what I'm talking about. So we're actually gonna go full traction on two-wheel drive. So yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people buy these xDrive cars and then they'll go into two-wheel drive. They won't realize that, or they probably just don't care, maybe, and they'll go and do something stupid. And it happens a lot, guys. It's not just once or twice, like it happens all the time. It's a combination of the car and unfortunately the people who buy the car. See, even on that little pull, if I had no traction, the car would have been slipping out. But right now, with full traction, it's still easy. Man, I love this car. And now, the last thing is this right over here. The tires. These cars need a proper set of tires for the right conditions. Like I mentioned, these things come in xDrive, but a lot of people confuse that and they think, oh, it's xDrive, so I can drive it during the winter, I can drive it during the cold. No, these things come from factory with summer tires, and a lot of people put summer performance tires on the car, rightfully so. However, you shouldn't be using those tires in the winter. Even if it's xDrive, it doesn't matter. All-wheel drive is not gonna save you from hockey puck-like tires and just zero traction. All-wheel drive can help push you out of situations because you're gonna have power to your front wheels as well, but it's not gonna help you in that situation. And a lot of people surprisingly don't realize that. That's even more important during the snow, but when you're like sub 40 degrees Fahrenheit or so, tires like these, they're not gonna perform right. Now, these here are the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's, great tire, by the way. And not only are these a better tire than factory, they're also wider. So I have 295 30 R19s. From factory, I think it's like 285, so not too much different, but I do have a squared setup, so I have the same thing up front, whereas from factory, I believe it's actually 275s in the front. But anyways, as great as these tires are, they are horrible in the cold and in the snow. That's not what they are built for. That's not what they're meant for. They're meant for days like today where it's almost 60 degrees out and where they can just stick better. That's just how the compound on these summer tires work. Now, I'm not gonna fully explain everything because I'm not some tire engineer, but we can keep it as simple as this. Summer tires are meant for warm weather, and all-season tires or winter tires are meant for not just the snow, but also for the cold. So despite that this is a all-wheel drive car, that does not matter. You need proper tires on it. I mean, just to drive day to day, you might be fine, and that's okay, but people will drive these cars in the cold on their summer tires in all-wheel drive or in rear-wheel drive, and they'll just slide and lose control. And again, it's because they don't have the right tire. Now, I know that to a lot of us is pretty common sense. Like, if you have a car like this, you expect to know something like that. But like I keep on saying, guys, these cars appeal to the masses. There's so much clout behind these cars. So many young people want these cars, and nothing against young people. I'm still pretty young myself, but these are just some things that you need to know, or someone needs to tell you, or you just need to be aware of. Because if you're not, well, you can easily think, oh, it's all-wheel drive, so I'm fine during the winter, I'm fine during the snow, I'm fine during the cold, when in actuality, you are not. So now, obviously, there's a lot of factors that can contribute to why some of these cars have been crashed. One, I mean, they're just popular too. So obviously, the more popular the car is, the more things are gonna happen to it. Like, for example, the M8 is an amazing car, but it's not that popular. So if there's like 100 M8s out there and 10% of them get crashed, well, that's only 10. Whereas if a G80, there's 1,000 out there and 10% get crashed, that's 100. You're gonna see them way more. So obviously that has to do with it as well, but there's just some themes that I've noticed why a lot of people are crashing these cars, and it's really unfortunate. I guess I'm a little more passionate about this because I own a G80 M3. I love this car. Honestly, I feel like I never potentially want to sell this car. Hopefully I don't change my mind on that. And I just don't want its name to be tainted by all these people who keep on crashing them, being known as like the new Mustang, the new crowd killer. Not that I'm saying that should matter, but you know, it still does suck. And look, I'm not judging anybody who crashes their car. So many car people have done it, and I'm sure a lot of us will, hopefully not, but probably will experience it again in the future. So I'm not trying to make fun of those people. I'm just making some observations, and hopefully as a community of G80 M3 owners, we can just improve. But anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop it a like, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And with that said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.